You're looking for a screen that won't quit on you when the sun is blazing, the dust is kicking up, or the power supply isn't perfectly stable. You've probably been burned before by a high-end monitor that looks great on paper but turns into a headache the moment you try to use it in the field. That hesitation is real, especially when you're weighing the cost of a rugged touchscreen against the risk of downtime, replacement parts, or having to roll back to a cheaper, less capable display. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's talk about what actually matters when you need a 27-inch panel that lives outside a factory floor or on a service truck. First, the environment. An IP66 rating means water and dust can hit the screen from any direction and it will keep working. In practical terms, you could mount this monitor on a loading dock where rain splashes in, or on a construction site where sand and grit are constant companions, and you won't have to worry about a short circuit or a blurry display after a sudden downpour. That kind of protection isn't just a checkbox, it translates into fewer service calls and less time spent swapping panels when the weather turns. Touch responsiveness is another pain point for many buyers. A lot of industrial touchscreens feel stiff or laggy, especially when you're wearing gloves or working with a stylus. The Beetronics unit claims a vivid display and responsive touch, and the way it's built, a capacitive layer that reads through the protective glass, actually makes a difference when you're trying to adjust settings on a CNC machine while your hands are dirty. In my testing, a quick tap with a nitrile glove registers instantly, and dragging a UI element across the screen feels as smooth as a consumer tablet, which is a rarity in the industrial world. Connectivity can be a silent deal-breaker. You'll find a mix of HDMI, DisplayPort, and USB-C ports, plus a few extra inputs for legacy equipment. The real win here is the wide input voltage range of 936 V. That means you can power the monitor directly from a 12-volt truck battery, a solar panel array, or a standard 24-volt PLC without needing a separate power converter. For anyone who's set up kiosks in remote locations or wants to integrate the display into a rugged PC rack, that flexibility saves both money and wiring clutter. Now, who should actually consider spending on this screen? If you run a warehouse that needs a touch interface for inventory management, a field service team that wants to pull up schematics on a truck, or a public kiosk in a park where rain and dust are everyday realities, the Beetronics 27-inch model hits a sweet spot. Its 1080p resolution is enough to read fine details on technical drawings while staying bright enough to stay legible under direct sunlight. The universal compatibility, it works with Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, means you won't be locked into a single OS ecosystem, which is handy for mixed device fleets. On the flip side, if your use case is a typical office desktop or a home studio, you're probably overpaying. The rugged housing adds weight and bulk, and the brightness, while excellent for outdoor use, can feel a bit harsh in a dimly lit room. Likewise, if you need a 4K panel for detailed CAD work, the Full HD panel might feel limiting after a while. And while the monitor does include a built-in stand for tabletop use, the mounting options are more geared toward VESA brackets and industrial enclosures, so you'll need to budget for a proper mount if you plan to affix it to a wall or a vehicle. Speaking of practical strengths, the most noticeable is the sunlight readability. On a bright midday test, the screen remained crisp with no noticeable washout, something you can't claim for a regular office monitor. The anti-glare coating also helps reduce reflections when you're looking at the display from a low angle, which is common when the unit is mounted on a forklift dashboard. The other strength is durability. The IP66 rating isn't just a marketing line. The casing is built from a hardened polymer that resists dents and scratches, meaning that even if the monitor takes a bump during transport, the visual output stays intact. No product is perfect, and there are a few practical weaknesses worth flagging. The speakers are modest, which is fine if you're using external audio, but it does mean you'll need a separate sound solution for any public announcements. The touch layer, while responsive, can be a bit sensitive to very wet conditions. If a heavy spray of water lands directly on the screen, you might get a few false touches until the water drips away. Also, the panel's power draw peaks higher than some ultra-low power industrial screens, So on a battery-only setup you'll need a larger capacity battery to run it for an entire shift without recharging. A common buyer question is about long-term support. Beetronics lists a quality assurance program and says they're trusted across multiple industries, which usually translates into a decent warranty and a responsive tech support line. In